Alrighty, I got my Rent-A-Girlfriend shirt. It's a very nice shirt, by the way. You should probably get one of these. And today we're going to be looking at chapter 239. This is going to be my immediate reaction and probably my first impressions. So, with that being said, I'm looking forward to this chapter. I'm really excited about this conversation. And I feel like I pretty much called the entirety of the conversation because, again, if you go back, you can pretty much figure out everything the author left for us. And so I'm pretty sure this conversation is going to be like, you're in love with Mizuhara, you're not in love with Chizuru, but then Chizuru's just going to be like, but I want to figure this out. Because this entire arc has been essentially about like figuring out your life, figuring out what you want to do with your life, and not just sitting around wasting it. You got to keep moving forward even if you don't know what you're doing. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be exactly what ends up happening in this. And yeah, so without further ado, let's mosey. A fateful revelation. An opening up from a wish to understand her feelings. An unexpectedly prompt answer? I'll tell you everything if you'll let me. Chapter 239, The Girlfriend and the Kiss, Part 8, Miyajima Reishi. Huh, there's an interesting juxtapose happening between their faces. Kazuya's like totally fucking shook, and then Chizuru has like a weird like sense of understanding to her. Same, bro? Girl, I need you to chill.
Huh? Tell me everything. Right here? Right now? Everything? Everything? Everything like what? Her blood type? Fucking course not! Her answer! It has to be! Whether it's a yes or no! Whether she has feelings for me.
She has feelings for him.
To be honest, I don't understand it very well myself, you know? What these feelings are. I don't understand. Makes sense. It's just as Yomori-san said. I do think it's strange, you know. From my position, where I'm receiving money from you, I'm going so far as intervening in situations where I can't make any excuses. Why did I go so far? I've given it a lot of thought, nevertheless, you know. These 3 months, it would turn into a big problem if my other clients found out about what I did. You could say my feelings are clouded. I thought about quitting my job so I could take responsibility for this. Quit being a rental girlfriend? Mizuhara considered that because of me?
Okay, holding my thoughts.
What about money? Living expenses. That's what you're talking about, right? Well, to be honest, it would be a pain. Being a top-class rental is a real asset. There's my work as a stage actor as well. I do a few plays each month, though it's not enough to put food on the table. And I like this line of work. Not that I would mind working in a hostess club or something either, but letting go of a profession I know well is rather risky. You can't! This is my fault. If you were the one who had to take responsibility for it, I couldn't live with it. Okay, well, if you're gonna indulge me like that, how can I say no? That's so cute! But I don't want to keep things up in the air. No matter what happened before, I don't want to act like it never happened, for the sake of things going forward as well. I want to find an answer to these feelings. Mini-chan said it too, that it's affection, and that people think of what lies ahead on this path as feelings of love. Feelings of love? Then that means her answer is... But doesn't it cross your mind? My job is to make people fall in love with me. Huh? You told me I could be myself, but it's not like I've shown you the real me all the way through. There are still parts of me that are make-believe. So if you tell me you love me, I can't help but think, are you really okay with that? Mizuhara. Maybe the girl you really love is Chizuru, Mizuhara, you know?
How can you say that to him, girl? Fuck. What'd I fucking say, bitches? What did I fucking say, bitches?
Isn't it unreasonable to expect someone to be 100% real all the time?
Give her some Sayuri language, my dude! Sayuri language! Yeah,
We're all human. It might perhaps be impossible to not embellish who you are. Maybe. Well, maybe so. But without clarity on my own feelings, I can't move forward. If we're to have that kind of relationship, I can't even consider it until I know how I feel about you.
It's a temporary down, it's a temporary down, it's a temporary down.
My feelings won't reach her. Nothing has changed after all. No matter how well we understand each other's feelings, we remain as rental girlfriend and client. No matter how much courage I muster, my feelings will never reach her. This isn't fair, Mizuhara. Maybe the problem is how we met. Maybe if we'd met under normal circumstances, our future. If that's the case, there's no way to change it, is there? Even if we say we kissed, that doesn't change a thing. Mizuhara will never be mine. So please, I'd ask you to wait just a little longer. Huh? Mizuhara? Does that mean... I want to find out too, about these feelings, which I've never felt before. So, for just a little bit longer, I want to try seeing them for what they are.
Ah, see, told you, it's a fucking temporary down. And the whole Chizuru thing is a lot more complex than it seemed. Like, I really gotta preface that.
Okay then, I had fun today, thanks. See you later. Thank you for letting me know about the yoga thing. I'll drop by to pick it up. So, could you hold on to it until then?
Oh, that's actually even cuter. Oh, that's adorable, dude. Text them back afterwards. That's great. And she sends him the emoji he sent her. Oh, see, I told you guys. I literally fucking told you guys. They're not gonna get into a fucking relationship immediately. They gotta ease into it. They gotta figure out their feelings, their connection, and they gotta work on it. And if you guys don't know, the series has an anthology. And the first chapter of the series, of the anthology, is written by Reiji. And it has a conversation between the two, and it perfectly highlights their differing ideologies and understanding of what romance is and what connections are. Because this series talks a lot about what does it mean to emotionally connect to another human being. This chapter raises this really, really well. Like how Kazuya asks, is it how we met? Is it our connection? Is it the fact that we're renting? Like, are those things dictating how we feel? Or do those things dictate whether you fall in love or not? Do those things dictate whether you develop an emotional relationship? Because if you'll notice, Kazuya is echoing pretty much what Grandma Sayuri says. Grandma Sayuri saw essentially the whole picture, but she can't convince them, only they can convince themselves. Like, she can tell them, she can set them on the right path, and she can give them all this great advice, and you see how Kazuya echoes this very advice that she said, but at the same time, like, this is something Chizuru has to learn for herself, and she realizes this. She needs to start embodying much of the things that she said early on in the series, because if you actually go back, a lot of the things that she said would contradict her words here, but that's specifically because Chizuru didn't actually understand these words fundamentally. She's putting on an act in more than one sense of the word. Chizuru fundamentally does not understand romance. This is complex to explain, so, you know, I know I'm just saying, like, yo, just trust me, bro. Trust me, I'm the source, trust me, but I'll show you guys in that passion project I've been working on. Let's keep going. I've been rambling a little bit. This is so great. He took off the scarf! He took off the scarf! Oh! I feel like the symbolism. Kazuya took off the scarf because the scarf is that weight over him, and now it's gone. Because now he knows. There's no more weight. There's no more shackles on him.
I don't remember very well what happened after that. All I remember is that day, I walked back home from Harajuku to Sakurada over 2.5 hours. And that it took all I had to hold these feelings of joy in while they were about to overflow. He walks fast. And that... Once I got back to Narima, I went to a secluded place and couldn't hold them in any longer.
Next time, we're kicking off a new arc with the lead color page. Oh yeah, baby, we're about to... So this is the end of the girlfriend and the kiss arc. Everything is cleared up. A star, once out of reach, flies right toward him, and only for him. The rental life breaks new ground. Next time, the inquiry begins. The whole conversation about money is really important too. Like, I like how Kazuya is being extremely reasonable here. It's like, no, keep your fucking job. Don't like quit because of some fucking responsibility bullshit. Like, this job works for you. Do what you fucking want to do. I love how he does that. Like, he makes her feel a sense of comfortability. So this chapter's really good. If you guys haven't guessed, I really liked it. Great. And man, oh man, the ending of this chapter is fire. But yeah, like, the conversation is great. Like, they talk, and I love how she kind of eases into it, and Kazuya is just like, her answer has to be whether it's a yes or no. And the chapter is moving fast. That's another thing I want to point out. The chapter's moving fast. It's not like wasting any time. I really want to just reread this. This is such a like uplifting and fun chapter. And I like how Kazuya doesn't like question her for the money. He doesn't question her for any of those things because he knows he's paying for a service. He's pushing the boundaries of their relationship, but it's still her job, and he doesn't want to like impose on her in any negative way, you know? Like, it's still her job, and she still needs to pay for things, and that's hard and important. And you see this in like how Kazuya is like a business major. Kazuya fucking understands how important money is, so Kazuya doesn't want to impose on her. Like, there's a clear mutual understanding on money, even though Chizuru clearly feels guilty and feels like responsible and wants to quit her job. Kazuya is just like, no, like, this is your job, income is fucking hard, I don't want you to do something you're gonna fucking regret. Like, no, that's not what I want from you. I want a relationship with you, but I don't want you to like ruin your financial life for me. That's not what I fucking want. And that is like really mature of him, because a lot of people would feel very strange about this whole idea of money and like their relationship being built on that aspect. And even and that's part of the discussion, is like, does money dictate that kind of relationship? And of course, like, there's circumstances where it's like the whole, I don't want to even get into that. And the whole idea Reishi is saying is that it doesn't really matter where a relationship starts. Like, in the end, a relationship happened all the same. And Chizuru is simply confused about these feelings. The thing that confuses Chizuru is that it's a multitude of things. It's a multitude of things. Like, it's her own understanding of what relationships are, which I won't get into here. I think it's a little too complex to explain here, and I need to give proper contextual examples of this, because everybody's gonna spin my fucking words. It happens every time, and I have to give like a long ass explanation of my words, and I'm not getting into it. That's one facet. Another facet is Chizuru has never like really lived life properly, because she's focused so much on her dream, which directly ties into like the words that she echoes to Kazuya, which is that if you want something in your life, you gotta toss everything else aside and chase it. But in doing so, Chizuru has never learned what it means to love and to connect. She's never had that in her life. She's never had a proper emotional connection outside of like the one she had with her grandmother. And that's different to Chizuru. That's completely different to Chizuru. So in this instance, Chizuru needs to understand what these feelings are, because she's just that lost. She doesn't really like understand these feelings, and she's that confused. But I love that, again, Chizuru keeps moving forward regardless. And she essentially just like said, yo, like, this relationship matters to me. That's pretty much what Chizuru is saying here, is like, this relationship really matters to me, and I don't kind of want to lose this, you know? I don't want to lose what I have here, so I'm going to try and figure out, I want you to wait for me. I want this relationship between us to work out. In that sense, so one example you could see is that Kazuya and Chizuru are kind of like the reverse of each other's. Kazuya is like aware of his feelings because he's experienced them 100 times over, because Kazuya's constantly tried to have a relationship and has been rejected. So in a sense, Kazuya understands his feelings that much better. Chizuru is the complete opposite of that. Chizuru has always rented, and she's made people fall in love with her, yet she herself has never properly fallen in love. So she doesn't understand love on a fundamental level. Everything she says to Kazuya prior, in the very beginning of the series, in most of these parts, these are just feelings that are mixed in with her understanding of romance, because she makes people fall in love with her, you know? So basically, when we're seeing her in the early parts of the series, those are like her actual feelings surfacing. She doesn't understand them, mixed in with her textbook understanding of love. So basically, a lot of these things are conveyed through the expression. And it's crazy because I went back and reread some of these early parts, because I'm also gonna try and make a anime/manga review for like the first season of the anime, because I really want to cover that. And as I was going back, one thing I found really interesting is that if you pay attention to the expression, a lot is conveyed to you. There's a lot of implicit information given to you through expression, because expression in this series is huge. This is why we get so many panels like this, where we're seeing like Kazuya like zooming in on his eyes, his expression, how he feels. All these things are really important. That the reactions the characters give convey a lot more. Rent-A-Girlfriend is just the Dark Souls of fucking rom-coms. But yeah, that's something I kind of really wanted to point out. And Chizuru, it happens with her a lot there. These confusing emotions, her reactions, around this time in the story, she's becoming keenly aware of these reactions and how she feels, and this is what's going on with her character. She's becoming keenly aware of these reactions, and in a way, I love how it happens here. Is like we're essentially paving a new path. That's what it feels like. We're paving a new path, and we're going in a different direction. And again, this definitely ties into that theory about like spring, and how like when spring starts is like when their relationship will really bloom. So it's really not that far away. It's really just not that far away. So we're gonna have them. She's gonna come over, they're gonna meet up, she's gonna come into his house, and they're gonna like get the ticket, and you know, they'll probably have another conversation. Maybe Chizuru will get a little bit more explaining out of the way, because there's still stuff that's not like fully explained, so we'll get some more explaining out of the way. We'll get some like cute fluff coupley stuff, and then we'll probably have another instance where she'll come and visit him more and more, because how else can you understand these feelings if you don't interact, you know? So I feel like Chizuru is gonna try to interact to figure these feelings out, which just kind of makes sense, you know? So yeah, get back to this. Chizuru's lack of expression is another thing that kind of like bugs her, because what's interesting too is a lot of people don't realize there is an inherent juxtapose in almost everything between these characters, and it's 100% intentional by Reiji, and this is kind of what fuels their conflict and dynamic. A good example of understanding like a bit of Chizuru's feelings is the ending song to the anime Bungee Jumping. If you read the lyrics to it, if you actually listen to the lyrics, they're clearly being conveyed from Chizuru's end in a sense, but they're not like 100% clear, you know? And it's like it shows in how Kazuya interacts with her, how Kazuya does certain things that confuse her and like send mixed messages, just as she sends him mixed messages. See, Kazuya externally sends her mixed messages. Chizuru's like lack of expression and certain choice of words sends him mixed expressions. So you can see it even here in this specific shot right here. Chizuru has like kind of a blank face, but the words she's saying are internal. They're about her internal feelings and what she's going through. Well, Kazuya, a lot of his expression and feelings is being conveyed through his face. Look at her face and look at the words that she says. It's kind of like off. It doesn't feel quite right, and it's because this is kind of blaming herself for everything. This is the thing I kind of wanted to point out about the whole Ruka thing. Like I think I've mentioned this a few times. It's not about Ruka. That's why Ruka's not. It's not about Ruka. It's not about Ruka. It's not about the guilt that Chizuru feels towards Ruka. That's not what this is. This is a whole different ball game. This even applies to the pre-time skip thing, where before the time skip happens, before Paradise starts. That's also not necessarily about Ruka either. And the series slowly begins to highlight that. It's like kind of about Ruka, but not really. You know, it's about Chizuru's feelings. It's about what Chizuru's going through. And it's not spelled out to you. You're supposed to pay attention, and if you're paying attention, the series rewards you. This is kind of like why I said it's the Dark Souls of rom-coms, because it doesn't spell shit out for you. It doesn't. If you pay attention, you're rewarded. And eventually, when we get revelations, like certain revelations, like maybe like here kinda, it recontextualizes events. When you go back, events are a little bit different now. Like they have different meaning now. And if you go back and reread the series with the information you currently know, a lot of the events in the story are completely different. I feel like what people want out of this story is not what it's delivering, and a lot of times they don't realize this, and that's why many people judge it so harshly. It's because like what it's saying and what it's doing is not necessarily in correlation with what people understand as rom-coms or drama or any of that stuff, so they don't like it. They judge it immediately. They judge Kazuya's character, but because we judge the character so much, we end up missing the value of what the story is actually trying to say. And I feel like this what the series is saying is far more profound than a lot of people would love to give it credit for, because fuck, everybody loves to go off on this shit on Twitter. It's getting real fucking old, because it just feels like an echo chamber. Bro, shit literally just feels like an echo chamber. spitfiring the same shit over and over and over, and everyone just agrees because confirmation bias. There's constant little hints like that being tossed around all throughout the series. And the more you pay attention, the more you'll start to notice these things, that how these words impact them, how these words like leave a mark on these characters, and what they inevitably mean. And this is why it fucking hurts Kazuya, because it's like, no, I've interacted with you so much, I know so much about you. How can I just be in love with one part of you? Just this one part, the act that you've said. Like, I've seen enough of the real you underneath. I know to a degree who you are. And this is even echoed in chapter 173, I believe, where Chizuru is asking Kazuya, how do you feel about me? What are your feelings towards me? And she says, like, you described an idealized version of me in the cheer update, when in reality he was actually just describing her. What she doesn't realize is that all these things have blended together. Mizuhara is a real part of her, and she doesn't realize that. She doesn't see that. That's the tragic irony, is that what Kazuya described is 100% accurate. What Kazuya described to her in the cheer update, 100% accurate. That is for sure like a real part of Chizuru, and she doesn't fully realize that. And that's why it feels like an idealization to her, because she thinks her internal is unworthy. So these words are not accurate to her because those don't feel like they're right. She doesn't believe she's worthy of these words, if that makes sense, you know? So that's why, like, that line during the Saza date where she's asking for his feelings, that's why she says, like, you described an idealized version of me. And here it's like, the way she's saying it, it's almost like she wants to kind of believe this, even though she knows it's not true. You see this juxtaposed between their faces, where it's like how Kazuya feels and how she's looking through. And I also love the utilization of these little black lines, because it feels like the sun is like cutting through. This is something I actually really love about Reiji's art, where, for example, if you guys look back at the scene where Ruka kisses Kazuya again before Paradise, the way it's drawn, the way he utilizes the line, they feel like sharp, like they're fucking cutting through, like it feels like something is being cut. And in a way, like, he utilizes the same exact thing here, where you're seeing these lines from the sun, except they're actual black lines. So it feels like they're cutting something. Like, it literally looks like it's cutting something over here, like in the pillar. Like, the way the lines are, like, coming out, it's like these words are like a knife, like a fucking dagger to Kazuya's heart. And at the same time, they're also, like, kind of a dagger to her, because she doesn't want to believe this, because if this is true, then she doesn't have a connection with him. And so I love that Kazuya echoes Grandma Sayuri's words, but then you see him like grief-stricken here, where he it just feels like something's looming over him, and Kazuya's completely shadowed. And like, you can tell, like, this hit like a proverbial drug, and it's like she's not trying to hurt him. This is just genuinely what she like feels. And it's important that she voices it to Kazuya, because that way he can contradict her. That way he can, like, tell her how he feels. Isn't it unreasonable to expect someone to be 100% real all the time? Because it's like him processing, where it's like you see Kazuya's face, she's walking away. He looks at her first time, she's like, wait, what fucking happened? And then he gets a text, and then the text like, this is so good. This is so cute. I love everything about this. This is so fucking cute. It's adorable. It's adorable. It's so fucking cute. It's so fucking cute. These feelings, hold on to them. Wait until I'm ready to come and pick them up. And then she sends him the fiery thank you. And that's the thing he sent her earlier. He sent her the sticker pack, and she sends him the sticker pack back to him. She's essentially conveying, I'm reciprocating your feelings. Like, that's kind of what she's pretty much conveying here, is like, I'm reciprocating your feelings. Yeah, I love how this scene is done, because so much is conveyed through just his motion, through his walking. Like, he takes off the scarf, like there's nothing held back anymore. Like, the emotions are about to fucking burst, and like he needs air. He needs air. So he starts like walking and like moving really fast, and he's shadowed. I love how he's shadowed. Like, he's highlighted here, but when it zooms in on him, he's shadowed. And then you see the signs, and he's back to Narima. He looks at his street, it's fucking empty. He's like, yeah, yeah. It just bursts out. You don't even see him. It's just like the shot in anime where when someone is yelling and the fucking cameraman's like, whoop, whoop, just shoots it up into the sky. Basically, it's about the emotion that you take away. The emotion that you take away from an experience is ultimately what matters, because we have a lot of experiences in our lives. We go through a lot of shit in our lives. Life can be messy, life can be shitty, but ultimately the feeling it's left you with, the feeling that you make of it, that's ultimately what matters in the end. So how you perceive events, what they matter to you, and the feeling you make of them is ultimately what matters. And that's kind of what Kazuya is saying here. If you go and like read these lines, all I remember that day is that I walked back home. He doesn't even remember the event here. He just remembers the feeling. He remembers the feeling he was left with. That's all that mattered to him. It was just the feeling. Everything else was just kind of a blur. This is kind of why paradise is called paradise, because it's literally just about the feeling that he was left with after the kiss, this feeling of paradise. And that's ultimately what mattered in the end. After all that shit they went through in paradise, the only thing that mattered to Kazuya in the end was the feeling it left him with, the feeling of paradise. That's why it's called that. And then finally, I noticed this while I was looking here, next time the inquiry begins, it's literally just like, okay, time to figure these feelings out. Let's begin our investigation. Ooh, spicy. Seems like we're gonna have maybe like a small arc. We're gonna have a small new arc where it's gonna be focused on Chizuru figuring out her feelings. I don't think it's gonna be super long, and I think maybe it might be maybe a little bit longer, but we're gonna have a small arc focused on the pair figuring out their feelings, and then afterwards, by the time spring starts, we're gonna have like the actual like confession from Chizuru's end, reciprocating his feelings completely, and them actually dating happening. So I do think that's what's gonna be happening moving forward. Is like, first she's gonna have an interaction with Kazuya, then she's probably gonna maybe have an interaction with like other people and what that means to her. We might have other topics get brought up, like maybe Ruka or some of those other things. That would be really interesting. Maybe Paradise might get brought up, maybe Umi's whole thing might get brought up. We don't know. I'm not gonna assume, like, there's no way for us to know. Again, I really liked the whole thing that was brought up with the rental now that I mentioned it, because initially I thought they would be removing rental as an aspect, but rather they're removing what rental means for them as an aspect, which is really interesting. It's an interesting twist of direction, because it's important that they don't, like, Chizuru doesn't lose her money into her funding, because that's really important just in general in living. And I like that, and this applies to, like, the setting. This utilizes the setting really well. And how characters like are adults, they gotta worry about money, they gotta worry about this shit, and just because like they have this weird relationship in terms of like this rental thing doesn't mean Chizuru should just magically get rid of it, you know? So yeah, this chapter was great. This chapter did a lot well, and it built off of a lot of that happened before. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say in regards to this chapter. I hope this was a fun experience for y'all, and this was relatable. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Just please subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to keep up with the uploads. Expect the project that I'm working on to come out soonish, hopefully. I want to get it out as soon as possible. And with that being said, remember, I've been Fate, and let's mosey.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.